Another MAGA civil war is ripping Donald Trump's White House apart as the Jeffrey Epstein scandal proves to be the most damaging moment of Donald Trump's entire presidency. The MAGA world is turning on Trump as Pam Bondi is going at it with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who are now making very shocking threats against Donald Trump that spell disaster for the rest of his term. We are going to get into it all and how Trump made it very clear which side he is on. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting the work that we're doing. Now, before we can get into how Trump has made it clear that he is turning on Patel and Bongino, I want to start with the context of this all, and that comes to us from Nicole Wallace.
We have some news breaking on the story we brought you at the top of the hour, the turmoil atop the FBI. Two sources familiar with the matter telling NBC News that Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, may be leaving his job after a heated confrontation with Attorney General Pam Bondi over his frustration with how the Justice Department has handled the Jeffrey Epstein files. As we reported earlier, Bongino did not come to work today after a heated argument with Pam Bondi Wednesday. Our reporting, Bongino did not report to work today amid speculation about his whereabouts, the sources said. It came after a heated confrontation Wednesday at a meeting with Pam Bondi and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, during which Bongino and FBI Director Kash Patel were asked about a news story suggesting they were dissatisfied with the decision not to release any additional Epstein files, the sources said. The meeting was first reported by Axios.
It is important to keep in mind what the focus of Dan Bongino and Kash Patel is, and that's cash. They were podcasters. They were conspiracy theorists. Kash Patel has spent the last few years selling MAGA children's books. He is not a political activist. He does not have some ideology. These guys are grifters. Dan Bongino left a very profitable podcast to do a job that he now hates because he can't cash in on it anymore. And so now that the MAGA base is turning on them, they realize that their gravy train is leaving the station, especially in light of the Epstein scandal plaguing the presidency. It's something that they have had to completely do a 180 on, leaving the base furious with them. And their scapegoat for it all is Pam Bondi. But what Brian Tyler Cohen had to say about it exposes why Donald Trump is now turning on Kash and Dan.
We've seen Dan Bongino and Kash Patel focus so much energy, so many resources, so much time on this exact issue, only for them to come out and say, oh, well, there's absolutely nothing here. But I would also caution, Natalie, to not put the onus, because I've been seeing this more and more on the right, to not put all of the responsibility on Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is an appendage of Donald Trump. She is not calling the shots. Nobody in this administration is calling the shots. This entire cabinet, this entire White House exists to serve Donald Trump. They exist to basically be extensions of Trump himself, and no one will ever act independently of him. And so if accountability is really what you're looking for here, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that this is all being done in good faith, then let's not delude ourselves into thinking that Pam Bondi is the final word or that the buck stops with her when the buck always stops with Donald Trump.
This idea that Pam Bondi is somehow an independent actor in all of this is absurd to me. Pam Bondi is there to kiss Donald Trump's ass and nothing more, and to inflict pain on his political opponents. It's the reason why Donald Trump loves Pam Bondi so much. Pete Hegseth is the biggest screw-up in the history of the cabinet. Why does Donald Trump keep him around? Because he will always sing the praises of dear leader, and Pam Bondi is quite good at that, and she's been doing it for Trump since his first impeachment. That's where we got Pam Bondi. And so it is no surprise what Donald Trump is now making very clear in this divide between Kash, Dan, and Pam Bondi, which just got even worse because we knew that Dan Bongino was threatening to resign, but a new report shows that Kash Patel will go along with him if Dan Bongino exits the White House. Now, again, they are doing this because they are focused on the cash and the grift, and MAGA is furious with them. But Donald Trump just picked a side, which will will spell disaster for the both of them and this entire administration.
Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, says the president is proud of the attorney general's efforts to execute his Make America Safe Again agenda, restore the integrity of the DOJ, and bring justice to the victims of crime. The continued fixation on sowing division in President Trump's cabinet is baseless and unfounded in reality. That's from Caroline Leavitt.
That statement makes it very, very clear that Donald Trump is sticking with Pam Bondi. And that is the sticking point for Dan Bongino, which means Kash Patel will be following behind him. If Dan Bongino leaves, as is reported right now, Kash Patel will follow along. And we have to keep in mind why. Because they want to continue to push conspiracy theories, and that gets blown up when they have to defend Donald Trump, who is directly tied to the Epstein files. They want to leave this administration and blame Pam Bondi. That is what they are likely going to do. That is my expectation, that we will see Dan Bongino and Kash Patel resign as Pam Bondi stays, and she'll be the punching bag. She's going to be the scapegoat, and everyone in MAGA world is going to attack Pam Bondi. But what is Pam Bondi? If I had a sock, I'd put it on and do this and maybe throw some bleach blonde hair on it. She's a puppet for Donald Trump. So if you're furious with Pam Bondi, like Brian said, you're just furious at Donald Trump with extra steps. But the cognitive dissonance that MAGA lives in doesn't allow for that. They can't challenge dear leader. Except actually, in this event, they kind of are. So if we see Bongino resign, if we see Kash follow in his wake, if it all lands on Pam Bondi, it just goes back to Trump. These resignations could potentially be the most damaging thing to happen to Donald Trump's presidency, because it represents such a clear split with him and his base who just want to push these conspiracy theories. If the grifters are leaving, how much more can Donald Trump grift? Now, I know there are those out there who will always pledge their fealty to Donald Trump no matter what, but losing part of his base that is stuck with him no matter what is a tremendous, tremendous blow and represents the weakening political power that he has. Donald Trump is a lame duck president. Donald Trump is about to suffer some of the most historic losses in the midterms we've ever seen. Donald Trump should be very, very worried right now, especially as other conspiracy theories that he pushes are blowing up in his face.
The country is now dealing with another problem: conspiracy theories. As Wired magazine reports, within hours of the tragedy happening, conspiracy theorists, right-wing influencers, and lawmakers were pushing wild claims on social media that the floods were somehow geoengineered. In Oklahoma, far-right extremists took credit for damaging a local news station's weather radar, falsely claiming that the technology used to track weather events was actually some kind of weather weapon, was their claim. Conspiracy theorists have also pointed the finger at an emerging new technology called cloud seeding, where scientists basically try to draw small amounts of rain out of clouds to help deal with droughts. There is zero evidence that cloud seeding had anything to do with the Texas floods. And scientists emphasize that this relatively young technology simply cannot produce the kind of rainfall that caused Texas flooding. But nevertheless, one cloud seeding company says it has already received more than 100 explicit death threats since the deadly flooding in Texas. And now MAGA politicians are amplifying those conspiracies. Georgia Congresswoman and noted weather conspiracy theorist, you know the one, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has fanned the flames by introducing a bill to ban geoengineering. And Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett has thrown his support behind the effort. But it's not just far-right members of Congress. Today, Trump's EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, posted this nod to conspiracy theorists online.
Concerned Americans have urgent and important questions about geoengineering. For years, people who ask questions in good faith were dismissed, even vilified by the media and their own government. Instead of simply dismissing these questions and concerns as baseless conspiracies, we're meeting them head on. Prior to now, EPA has never been this proactive to raise awareness about concerns with geoengineering and to stop this activity from being scaled up.
Now, what EPA Administrator Zeldin was supposed to be announcing in that video was an EPA fact sheet debunking conspiracies about geoengineering. But instead, he spent the entire video legitimizing the concerns of conspiracy theorists who are vandalizing weather towers and sending death threats. In fact, the video was so misleading, he even managed to fool fellow Trump cabinet member and conspiracy theorist RFK Jr., who replied to the video on X saying this: "I'm so proud of my friend Lee Zeldin and President Donald Trump for their commitment to finally shatter the deep state omerta regarding the diabolical mass poisoning of our people." Nothing like a few conspiracy theorists in a presidential cabinet just out there amplifying each other's crazy theories every day. That's where we are. And that kind of deeply irresponsible messaging is just the tip of the iceberg here. Because at almost every level, the Trump administration's response to this tragedy has been its own man-made disaster. I mean, consider Trump's acting FEMA administrator, David Richardson, who hasn't been seen in public since this flooding took place. In fact, he hasn't been seen for months. As E&E News reports today, since his appointment by Trump on May 8th, Richardson has shunned all publicity, making no public appearances or statements. His FEMA biography page has no photograph. Richardson personally backed out of a telephone meeting he was scheduled to attend in late June with leaders of the nation's major emergency management association. Seems like one he should have attended. "We haven't seen anything out of him," said one leader of Richardson.
I think it is important that we use the correct language when describing what MAGA does with conspiracies. They don't espouse them. They don't push them for fun. They exploit them. There is always a victim on the other side of MAGA's conspiracy theories. If you want to say that the earth is flat or we didn't land on the moon, you can go ahead and sound stupid, but that doesn't really hurt anyone. It's not good for science or media literacy, but it's different from Pam Bondi or Alex Jones offering up conspiracy theories saying that children who have been slaughtered in their high schools, elementary schools, and middle schools are paid political actors, or exploiting the victims of Jeffrey Epstein to try to attack Barack Obama and Joe Biden with baseless claims. That is the exploitation of people who have been hurt. That is what these conspiracies do. They're not just tinfoil hat fun times for the MAGA fans. They are damaging, they are hurtful, and the MAGA people, they don't care. When they say that they're worried or that they want to stop trafficking or they want to prevent, bad guys breaking the law because we're law and order, they're not. This is exploitation of real people who have really suffered. That is the only lens we can take. Well, when Marjorie Taylor Greene starts talking about cloud seeding, it's because she's distracting from the fact that MAGA denies the existence of climate change, and because of that, people lose their lives. It is exploitation. Remember that. We're going to make sure people do on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.